on Yud Chesamad base. So we had the issue was about Ishzach Shalahi Balamo, and the first Mishnah also was the same, but this Mishnah is saying a Chiddush. The first Mishnah was the opposite order. We'll have a chart. The first Mishnah was the case that when Levi was Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, one who was not that same world, so the Mishnah, when he was born, he found his Reuven's widow as being his widow, Almanas Reuven. And this Mishnah says that before Levi was born, the second brother Shimon had already done Yibum. So that's the difference between the Mishnah before and this Mishnah. I have a little chart. Maybe we'll show it if it helps. Good morning, Chaim David. So here's a chart. Here it goes. The Mishnah before, I did the 3 steps. Each chart is 3 steps, just a sequence. I couldn't figure out how to do a sequence well. Machavusa suggested like this. First, there were 2 brothers. One was married and he died. Okay, that was a story. Next, stage 1. Stage 1 was 2 brothers, and the one died without any children, and then a 3rd brother was born. Nothing happened at that point. She was supposed to be Yibum between the widow and call him Shimon, but before he did, there was a 3rd brother born, and then after he's called Eishzach Shalahi Balamo, right? He's asked to have Yibum with her, even if she would wait till he grows up, but they can't have Yibum because it was Lohoi Balamo. And then Shimon did do Yibum to her. That was fine because he was in the same world, but then he also died. The end of the story was that Shimon also died, and now she falls to Levi. And the Mishnah says that he cannot marry her, even though he was in the same world as Shimon, but he wasn't in the same world as Reuven. And since historically she was Eishes Achashul Hayabalomo of Reuven, so he cannot marry her. That was the Mishnah before. This Mishnah comes up to the same case. It starts with the same case, ends with the same case, but the order in the middle was not Nolad and then Yibam, but it was Yibam and then Nolad. How does that case go? Starts the same way. There were 2 brothers and one died without children. And before the 3rd brother was born, Shimon did Yibum. And then the 3rd brother was born. When he came into the world, he found this woman not to be the widow of Reuven. He found her ready to be the wife of Shimon. And then Shimon died. Yeah, in the same case, Shimon died. So is that to make it any better? Does that make it any more? The fact that he found her.
Yeah, maybe because he only knew his brother Shimon as a married man.
He only knows his sister-in-law
as
a married woman,
his
Shimon.
Brother.
So that's the issue.
So
first,
to do Yevam.
So our Mishnah says that there's no difference, and the question, and if Shimon's going to argue, that's what the Tanna Kamma says. There's no difference between the 2 cases. No difference. The Mishnah before the Reisha. This is called the Reisha and the Sefer. This was before the beginning of the Perek. This is our Mishnah. The Sefer is our Mishnah. And Tanna Kamma says no difference. Both cases of Nolad Vachach Hive, when he was born, he found his sister-in-law as a Almanas Reuven, and or if when he was born she was already Eishes Shimon, that the Shimon already did. No difference in both cases. Our Tana holds that Levi, the new brother, cannot do Yibum because she once was Almanas Reuven. Right, and now Rav Shimon argues. Rav Shimon is going to say that he could do Yibum to her. And the question is, does he argue only in this last case because when he was born, he found her as being Eishes Shimon, as we said, or maybe he even argues in the first case also. And since even before he was born, she was already Zekuka at this stage already. As soon as Reuven dies, she's already, even though he didn't do anything, Shimon didn't do any Yibum. The fact that she was obligated to marry connected to Shimon, even though he didn't do Yibum, maybe that connection is also enough to make that she's already in. And when Levi is born, he already finds her as being married, not married, but married in quotations, Zekuka. And so okay. And that might have been, it's good already. she would be considered the wife of Shimon, and enough that when Shimon dies, Levi will be able to marry her. That's going to be the subject of today's Gemara. So to see the Mishnah, two brothers, one of them died, and then the second brother, Shimon, he married his sister-in-law that he's supposed to, that they did Yibum, and then a third brother was born. We'll call him Levi, and then Umeis, then Shimon died. So Tanna Kama says there's no difference between this Mishnah before, that this original wife, the widow of Reuben, even though Levi found her as being already the wife of Shimon, doesn't make a difference. It's still
he didn't know the original brother. He wasn't.
That's the problem. That since he was not in the same world as his original brother, so his wife, his widow, is and even though when he was born, she was already married to Shimon, it doesn't make a difference, and therefore he cannot marry her. And the wife of Shimon, if Shimon has a wife, another wife, so she's a tzara serva. She also cannot have yibum or chalitza. Everything is off, and the Tanna Kama considers her a full eish zachar shaloi b'olamo. Before it goes on to Reb Shimon, Shimon's going to argue. Before we get to Reb Shimon, it says the same thing I said before. Also, if Shimon he didn't do yibum, he just did ma'amar, which is like kedushin d'Rabbanan, then she surely is the same heir. The wife of Reuben, the almana, the first one who started the whole thing, she's surely yaseh because she's eish zachar shaloi b'olamo. But it's not so sure if she's married to Shimon or not. So is Shimon's wife going to be considered or not? So that in the way with the Raisa. So therefore, she gets chalitza. The second one gets chalitza, not yibum. Again, she has to have something because it's maybe on the Raisa level, the almana of Reuben is not married to Shimon at all. So therefore, the almana of Shimon has to have yibum because her husband died. But since Mamba does connect them a little bit on the Rabbanan level, so then she can't do yibum because in a way she is a tzara serva. That's a side point. It's not the issue of the Mishnah, but the Tanna Kama says that she's considered eish zachar shaloi b'olamo, even though when Levi was born, he found her as being the wife of Shimon. Still, we bring out the record. She once was the almana of Reuven and lo hayu b'olamo, so she's also ever to marry Levi. Reb Shimon Omer, v'yabam leizer ben sheyirtza, or fulas leizer ben sheyirtza. Reb Shimon doesn't see the problem. Shimon says it's okay. The Gemara is going to discuss why it's okay. Simply, we'll go to the maskana right away. That it's better the fact that when he was born, he found her as being the wife of Shimon already. So it's not called eish zachar shaloi b'olamo. And now that Shimon has two wives, it's true. Shimon has two wives. Okay, so two wives. So he does to any one of them either yibum or chalitza. If let's look at it as Shimon has two wives that are both can marry Levi. And like any time that one brother dies and he has two wives, so you only do yibum or chalitza to one of them, and the other one goes free. That's what Shimon says. So when you learn the Mishnah plain, we would think, and just we'll give out the simple pshat, even though the Gemara is going to talk about it very much, but it is going to come out like this anyway. That Reb Shimon only argues in this new case, the second case where when Levi was born, she was already the wife of Shimon. That's when Reb Shimon says it's okay, and he could marry her. It's not we erase the history that once upon a time she was married to Reuben. And Tanna Kama doesn't say the difference. No difference.
That's a case similar to this previously, right? So
What?
We did learn such a case.
We had this whole thing quoted many pages ago. We quoted this Mishnah. We quoted this Mishnah where Reb Shimon and the Gemara also coming up. Rav Ashai also was quoted. But the Gemara is the first Gemara is gonna take a stand different than I said, and it's gonna say that Reb Shimon holds that even in the first case, also even if Levi was born before Shimon did Yibum, also he's allowed to marry her eventually if Shimon dies. Reb Shimon is going to argue on everything, even on the ratio also, because the fact that there was an obligation to get the Yibum, that's called Zika. Yesterday we had a question, Yesh Zika, Ain't Zika. Now the Gemara goes Yesh Zika, and even stronger than Yesh Zika, that it's even going to be Zika Keknusa. It's going to be already as if Shimon had married her, and therefore when Levi is born, he sees her as being the wife of Shimon. The same way, if there was Yibum, even if there was no Yibum, the fact that there's already a Zika, that's enough makes that she's already married, quote unquote, married to Shimon, and therefore when Shimon dies, he is allowed to marry her, and we erase the history that once she was the almana of Reuven. That's going to be the issue of the Gemara. We'll see it inside. Amar Rav Oshaya. This is going to be Rav Oshaya. Just to scroll ahead, just to see what's going to happen, just to lay out the Gemara, map out the Gemara. Rav Oshaya is here. The Gemara is going to have kashas and terutzim and more kashas and terutzim till we get eventually to the next page. There's going to be Rav Papa who's going to argue. Rav Papa, about 10 lines from the bottom of Yutet Samanal, who's going to argue on Rav Shaya, and he's going to say, well, the way we just explained the Mishnah. But first, that we know the Bachkach Yibim Lopal. If Shimon doesn't argue on the Reisha, only argues if you met her as being the wife of Shimon. But if when he came into the world she was not married to Shimon, the fact that there's a Zika is not enough. That's Rav Papa. But Rav Shaya now, the whole sugya, according to Rav Shaya, they say Rabbi Yoshaya with a yud. On the side here is Rabbi Yoshaya. We'll point out later on why it's so important to say Rabbi instead of Rav, because later on Rav Yoshaya is going to ask a kasha on him. So he's not asking kasha on himself. There's Rabbi Yoshaya and Rav Yoshaya. So
Yoshaya was a Tana?
Doesn't seem so.
Doesn't seem so. So why is he called Rabbi?
Because he was in Eretz Yisrael and he got smicha. You have Amoram that are called Rabbi. Amar Rabbi Shai, Cholakoi Rabbi Shimon Afar Rishona. Rabbi Shai argues in the first mission also. Even in the Reisha, when he came into the world, she was not yet married to Shimon. So if Shimon dies, he's allowed to marry her because we'll see soon why. There's going to be about 10 lines, 15, 20 lines down. That's how we explained it, that the fact there's an obligation to marry Shimon, that's so strong, not only is Zika, even Zika Kiknusa. That's as if he's married, then when Levi is born, since he finds her as being a Zika, a Zukuka to his brother Shimon, so she's married, and therefore, when Shimon dies, he's allowed to marry her, and you forget the history that once upon a time, she was Almana of Reuben. So here, before the Gemara says that's far, first it proves it. How do I know that Reb Shimon argues even in the Reisha? Because the Reisha is extra. Is extra Mishnah. For whose chiddush did the Tana say the Reisha? I'll just read the words in the Gemara, then we'll see the chart. Just to the chart. In the Rabbanan who say that both the Rabbanan say that even the second case is Aser. The Rabbanan say that even the Sefer is Aser, even in this case, this is an extreme case. When Levi was born, he already found her to be married to Shimon. Even in this case, the Rabbanan say that he can never marry her, and if eventually Shimon dies, he still cannot marry her. This is the big chiddush that Rabbanan even in this case is Aser. So this first case is Pashut. If this case is Aser, surely the Reisha is Aser. In the case when he was born, she was not yet married to Shimon, then surely. So why does the Mishnah have to bother saying this first case? If the Mishnah says that this case where Yibim Vakach Nolad, it's Aser for the new brother to marry her, even though when he came into the world she was already married to Shimon. So surely when he came into the world she was not yet married to Shimon, surely it's Aser. So it must be that it's saying it for the Chiddush. The Reisha must be the Chiddush of Rabbi Shimon, that Rabbi Shimon that not in this case is he found her as being the wife of Shimon. Even in this case, we came into the world, he did not yet find her being married to Shimon. Also, it's worth it. Also, would be a superfluous case.
First husband, the first brother dies, she's already Zakuka, even though there's no marriage.
Yeah, that's true. The facts are true, but the question is how much does that affect? The fact that she is obligated to do Yibum does not make her considered married to Shimon in a way that she eventually, if Shimon dies, we erased history that she once was married to Ruvain because she was already Zakuka. The Gemara says, for whose chiddush does the Tana say the first case where Nolad v'yachkachibo, when he was born, she was not yet married to Shimon. Either the one say that if the Rabbanan say that as Asa, even if when he came into the world she was already married to Shimon, so Nolad v'yachkachibo, it goes without saying that if he was born and she was not yet married to Shimon, surely she's Asa to Levi. So it wouldn't be necessary to say the ratio for the chiddush of the Rabbanan. It must be Reb Shimon is the Reb Shimon, the Tana said the first case, in order to say Reb Shimon, that Reb Shimon is going to hold that case is also mutter. The reason why he says two cases is to say each one's extreme. That Reb Shimon is extremely matter, even in an extreme case where he came into the world, she was not yet married to Shimon, still she's going to be mutter to Levi. And the Sefer says that even if when he came into the world, she was already married to Shimon, still Levi's not allowed to marry her. Over dinner, the niflag Reb Shimon Bereisha, Reb Shimon should have spoken up right away. In the first case, when the Rabbanan said that it's Aser, Tana said that it's Aser, so Reb Shimon should have said it's mutter. He waited till I finished talking. He said the big chiddush, even the second case, not only the first case, even the second case, and then he argued on that, but he's arguing even on the first case also. Is that good? Just see on the chart if it helps one more time. There's a Reisha and a Seifa. That's not the Mishnah. Just to zoom out a little bit. There's a Reisha. There's a Reisha and a Seifa. Both of them is called Eish Zachar Shelo Balamo. That's the subject. The Reisha says a case when the third brother was born and then Shimon married her, the Yibum, and then Shimon died. And the Seifa says that after the first brother died, the second brother did Yibum, and then the third brother was born. The Rabbanan surely say both cases is also. That's patient Mishnah. The Rabbanan say even the second case is also. That's also to Levi because once upon a time she was the Alman of Ruvain, the Shlohaya Ba'alama. The question is when it says if Shimon holds his mutter, does he mean to say only the second case is mutter, but he agrees the first case is also because when he was born, she was still a widow of Ruvain? Or does Rav Shimon mean to argue on both cases? He waited. He was polite to wait until they finished talking, and they said even the second case is also. But he himself, when he says it's mutter, he means even the first case also is mutter. And now the Gemara continues to say, we'll come back to the chart still before we go further, but the Gemara says, we'll put 3 lines over here. Does Rav Shimon agree any time that it's going to be Eish Zachar Shelo Ba'alamo? Because the Gemara said before Drasha, the Gemara said Drasha that they have to be in the same world. Is there any case that Rav Shimon is going to say that it is considered Eish Zachar Shelo Ba'alamo? So the Gemara gives 2 cases: V'chadacha umis, the loach, one brother and he died, and then a brother was born. Inami betray below yibim below mis. So we'll put that on the chart. We have 2 cases over here where Rabbi Shimon will definitely agree that it's called Eish Zachar Shelo Ba'alamo. Here's the case, a simple case. Also, I wrote a sequence of how it happened. First, there was one brother, a single brother, and he had a wife, and he died without children. And then another brother. Then after he died, another brother was born. This case is surely Eish Zachar Shelo Ba'alamo. This Rav Shimon also agrees. Nothing. The only reason why he's going to be matir, we'll see, is because maybe she was already considered married to Shimon, even though he didn't actually do Yibum, but maybe Zika Kiknusa, as we'll see in a second. But in this case, surely this Rav Shimon will say this is Mamash Eish Zachar Ba'alamo. This is what the Torah meant to say that this new brother cannot do Yibum to his deceased brother's wife. And another case the Gemara says is Trei Yachi. Below Yibim, below Mace. I didn't write it separate. It looked like Ula MS. I just posted out, wrote again, below Mace. 2 brothers means there were 2 brothers originally. One died, and then the third brother was not born yet, and then the third brother was born. The second brother did not do Yibum, and he also didn't die. He's around. So now we're going to say this also Eish Zachar Shelo Ba'alamo. There's no question that Levi cannot do Yibum to this woman, even though Rav Shimon says a lot of times it's going to be mutter. It's only going to be mutter when she's going to be considered married to Shimon. But here, that he didn't eventually carry out the Yibum. Even Rav Shimon is going to agree that Levi will not be able to marry her. So this is.
There's a Zakika there, isn't there? It doesn't matter what Shimon didn't do. He's tied to her.
Right. So if there's a Zika, Levi Yaakov is asking if the point is Zika of a Zika Kiknusa also should be able to marry. So Machavusa said, I'll say what he said, what I said. I think that Machavusa said that we only say Zika Kiknusa if eventually there was a marriage. Then in retrospect and retroactively, we see that this was a serious thing, that the Zika was so much married since at the end he married her. But if he didn't marry her at the end, then you don't say that. I thought a little differently that you can't say that the reason why he's called Ba'alamo is because the fact that she's Zika Kiknusa to Shimon is not a reason that Levi is going to be allowed to marry her. It's going to be a reason to be mad to Levi.
We're saying we're monitoring Levi to do Yibum. Is that correct? Is that what we're doing?
This case not. Levi not. No. We're saying these are the cases everybody agrees that Levi cannot do. Either this case.
Well, so then she's like, she'll never be able to marry anybody.
No, Shimon should do Yibum or give her chalitza.
Yeah, but he didn't.
So he's still around. He's alive. So he should.
He should, and she's tied until he does.
Like any yevama, it's a regular.
Like any yevama.
Just if Shem looks.
We're just saying that. In other words, it's not a done deal till he does, according to this opinion. Yes. That's what we're saying. When
eventually he did Yibum, so then we'll say that the Yibum was already starting when there was already a Zika alone. So these two cases, everybody agrees is considered either if there's one brother or even two brothers, but there was no yibum that eventually took place. But in the case where the yibum took place, like in the ratio over here, that he did do yibum, even though he did yibum after Levi was born, Rav Shimon will say that Levi will be allowed to marry her eventually when Shimon dies. So this is the case that the whole sugi is going to revolve around. Does Rav Shimon say that even in this case, where when Levi was born, there was no yibum yet? You say Zika Keknusa, the fact that there's an obligation, that Zika makes it already considered that she's in. And when eventually he marries her, she's been in the whole time. And therefore, when Shimon dies, Levi will be able to marry her. That's what Talsuk is going to revolve around. What does Rav Shimon hold about this case? Yes, you see that in the Gemara? So we understand in the Sefer why Shimon might say that's mutter if there was Shimon the Jibum and then Levi was born. So when Levi was born, he found her as being the beheter. He found her as being the wife of Shimon. That's why Shimon could argue. In my time, why should Shimon say it's mutter if when Levi was born, she was not yet the wife of Shimon? Why should Shimon say that it's mutter? Kasava yesh zika, the zika kiknusa damya. He holds the zika. Yesterday's sugya, the zika ain't zika, yesh zika, and zika is even makes her considered as if she's married. Knusa is like like she's already in, so she's considered married to him. So she's into Shimon. She's married to Shimon, and therefore, even though Shimon did not do yibum, since she's obligated that zika, she's connected to him. That connection is considered a knusa, and therefore, Rabbi Shimon would not even that case. So that was a Bashai's stand, and he proved it from the Mishnah. The fact that there's the first Mishnah, it's an extra Mishnah, must be coming to say that Shimon is not even in that case. Maskef Rav Yosef. If Yosef is going to show that it's not true, Rav Shimon does not hold Zika Keknusa. Hashta Zika Mama, Mesaf Lel Rav Shimon Keknusa Dami Ila Keknusa Damya, Zika Lukodami Boya. I'm going to show you a case that not only is there a Zika, and Rav Shimon says that Zika is not like a Knusa, even if there's Zika and a Mama, he's also does not sure if she's considered married. We'll see the case in a second, but first he introduces that I'm going to show you that even if there's a Zika and a Mama, it's not sure, according to Rav Shimon, and you're going to say that Zika alone is enough to be considered a Knusa? So that's his introduction. Now goes the question. Mahi, where do you see Rav Shimon says anything about this? That's not. Shlosh Achin, Nesuan Shalosh Noshim Nachrios. Umeis Echad Meyam, Vasabah Sheni Ma'amar Umeis. Haveilu Cholzes Lo Misyavo, Shenema Umeis Echad Meyam, Yevamo Yavo Allah, Mishallah Zikas Shava Mechad, Lo Shallah Zikas Shnei Yevam. So we had this already, was quoted here, it says before on Daf Yud Beis was quoted already. So, and eventually the Mishnah is going to be on the Aflamad Aleph, and to go to the screen to show this case.
It's a Mishnah?
It's a Mishnah, the Aflamad Aleph it says, and we'll see that further on over here. This is the case that's called Zika Shnei Yevamin. Here it is. There were three brothers. It says here they were all married. The third wife is not necessary, so I didn't put it on because it doesn't make a difference in this case if she's married or not. But there were three brothers. All of them, not a case of Allahi Balamu, all of them were three brothers. They saw each other. They're all happy family. Two of them, they all got married also. You also could have a wife if you want. And then one of them died without children. And she should do Ma'amar or Chalitza from one of the brothers. So one of the brothers is ready to do Yibum, but he only did Ma'amar. There's a Ma'amar connection over here, which means like a Kedushin. And we'll see now what that effect is going to be. But then, before he had a chance to do Yibum, before he had a chance to marry her, he also died. So now, they're falling now to the third brother. So the issue of this woman is going to be called Zika Shnei Yevamin, that she's falling to Levi not only from Shimon, she still didn't get finished with Reuben. She's falling to Levi on two brothers. He's originally married to Reuben, and that wasn't taken care of yet because there was no Yibum or Chalitza done. It was only Mama, which is Rabbanan. It wasn't taken care of. And also, she's a little bit married to Shimon. So she's falling. This is going to be the Rabbanan. The Gemara said before it's Rabbanan and it's Nasmachta. We'll see what Reb Shimon holds about this. But so far, the Tanna Kama says that Levi not marry her. One brother. But if she's coming because two brothers, there's no din yibum on that. So he can't. And also now the question is that this one's going to be at Sarah, that the wife of Shimon also is maybe in the same boat. If she's considered married to Shimon, so then there's a co-wife. She's a co-wife to somebody that cannot do yibum. So Tanna Kama says, because of this problem, both of them need chalitza. You can't do yibum to either one of them, because maybe it's just like she might be considered an erba on the point that she's falling from two brothers, And even the tzara cannot get yibum because maybe she's disconnected, and it's just Shimon's wife, and she should have yibum. So therefore, both of them need chalitza.
Is Maimer stronger than Zika? Usually? No, I'm asking why.
Mama is besides the Zika. Even before you do a Mama, there's a Zika. As soon as Reuben died, there's a Zika already. This is going to be Zika plus a Mama. There's no such thing as a Mama without a Zika. There's a Zika. The Zika can be without a Mama. Once he does Mama, you have a Zika plus a Mama. That's what the Gemara is going to say. That Reb Shimon, even though there's a Zika and a Mama, he's also not going to consider her the wife of Shimon. So far, we have the Tanakama. Tanakama said that this woman, that she's falling to Levi on 2 counts, and brought 2 brothers, one from the original husband, which was not yet whatever the word is going to be, it was not yet taken care of.
Right.
There was no chalitza or yibum from him because of his death, and also she's a bit connected to second brother by the mom. Is a bit connected, so she cannot. That's called she's falling on 2 counts, and therefore she cannot do yibum, but she does need chalitza, and so too the tzara. That's what the Tanakhama says. We'll come back again to see what Rav Shimon holds about this.
How did you call that again? Zika l'shtei yevamos, or what's it called? Zika shnei yevimin. That's how you say it. Zika shnei yevimin.
And she's a chatzi with Rav Shimon because there was a mamar done. So she's a bit connected to him, and that's enough to make that she should be considered also obligated to Levi because of Shimon. That's what the Gemara says. The words are good. There were 3 brothers. 3 of them were married to 3 foreign women, means that they were not related to each other. They were not sisters. And it throws in the third one. The third one in as far as we don't see any purpose for the wife being over. But fine. He also was married. The first one of them. Second one to the first wife. That's what the chart showed. Both of them need chalitza. They can either them could need chalitza. Shenema umeis achad mehem yevamo yavola. It says that one of them dies, so her brother-in-law should marry her, but only achad mehem. Mishallah zika shevam echad. Only if she's coming on account of one brother. But lo shallah zika shnei yevam. Not if she's coming on account of 2 brothers. That's Tanakama. So both of them need chalitza. Now we're interested in Rab Shimon. We're really interested in Rab Shimon. Rab Shimon Omer miyabem. That he could do yibum to any one of them, and then whichever one he chooses, he could do yibum. The other one he has to do means both of them do need something to be done, either yibum or chalitza. He does yibum first to one of them, and then to the second one, to the other one, he'll do chalitza. And the Gemara explains why he holds that. He can't do yibum to both of them. That if it was a marriage, if the zika is enough to be considered a marriage, so then they're both married to Shimon. If Shimon has 2 wives, if it's already finished, it's as if Shimon did Yibum, so then she's finished with Reuben, and she was taken as Shimon's wife. And Shimon has 2 wives, then surely you can't do Yibum to both of them, because when a man dies with 2 wives, the brother doesn't marry both of them. He only is allowed to marry one of them. So there's a tzad. There is a tzad that Zika alone would make her considered married to Shimon, and he wouldn't be able to marry both of them. But it's also not possible to just do yibum to one of them, as if Shimon has 2 wives and do yibum to one of them, the other one goes free. Because maybe here's where we're saying that Shimon himself was not sure. Shimon says, I don't allow just to do one. I'll just show the chart and just say what the see what the Gemara is doing here. In this case, if you hold Reb Shimon, if Reb Shimon will look at this case, he should have said l'chora zika kiknusa. If the Gemara said a second ago, Reb Shimon holds zika kiknusa, as soon as Reuben dies, Shimon, his wife falls to Shimon, and she's considered married to him. And therefore, when Shimon dies, he has 2 wives, his original wife, and also this new wife that came to him now because of the zika. And now, when he dies, then we should consider this original wife of the widow of Reuben not to be the widow of Reuben anymore. She's already married to Shimon. If he's a Zika Kiknusa, and therefore Levi should be able to take any one of them because Shimon has 2 wives. The fact that the Shimon says I can't allow that because maybe Zika is not Kiknusa and she's not. She's the wife of Reuben, and this woman is the wife of Shimon, and he has to take care of them. Both of them have to be either chalitza or something. So the fact that Reb Shimon says that Zika and even Mama, that's what the Gemara is throwing in, that even Zika Mama still Rav Shimon is not sure that she's considered married to Shimon. So surely Zika alone does not make a knusa. What does Rav Shimon say? What does Rav Shimon say to do? That he should do even to one of them, either one he chooses. He could do even to either one of them, and to the other one he could do chalitza. That way everything's taken care of because he didn't marry two women, but he took care of both of them. Both of them did chalitza. That is the Gemara's question. That's Rav Yosef's proof that Rav Shimon doesn't say Zika Kiknusa. We'll see it inside. Alma Mesafkale, the fact that he doesn't let to do yibum to one of them and the other one should go free is because Dilma ain't Zika Kiknusa. And even with a mamar doesn't help. And then it comes out that there's two yevamos from two different houses. It means two different brothers. One is the wife of Ruben, one is the wife of Shimon. And you see that the Zika doesn't, even the Zika and the mamar, both of them don't allow that they should be considered Shimon's wife. Alma Mesafkale. All this was of Yosef's kasha. Just to scroll back a little bit. This was Maskef of Yosef. If Yosef asked, how could you say that Shimon holds Zika Kiknusa? I see in this Mishnah where there's a question of Reuven's wife not only having a Zika to Shimon, also having Mama to Shimon. Still, Rav Shimon says that you don't just marry one of them because and the other one automatically is taken care of. No, because maybe they're not. Maybe this wife, a widow of Reuven, is not considered married to Shimon, even though there was Zika animal. So surely a Zika alone is not going to definitely be Knusa. This was Rav Yosef's kasha. The Gemara tries to deflect the kasha. That's going to be for about 10 lines. Parentheses over here. We're going to get back to an answer. But first, the Gemara tries to answer the question. Maybe with the Raisa Rav Shimon will say she's surely considered married to Shimon, and Shimon has two wives now, and he could take either one, and the other one will be put without anything. He's suggesting, the more suggesting a possible teretz. On the screen, it'll be a little bit easier. Maybe Rav Shimon really holds that she is considered married to Shimon. That even not only the mama, even the Zika alone would have made her married to Shimon. Shimon has two wives, and with the Raisa Levi, she just marry one of them. The other one can go free without anything. But people are not going to realize that. It's a gzeira. People are going to think that the reason why Levi is marrying both of them is because is marrying one of them. Again, I said it wrong. That really, this widow of Reuven is considered married to wife. Shimon has two wives, and Levi only has to marry one of them. The reason why we're not going to allow him just to marry one of them and tell the other one to go free is because people are going to think that when there are two brothers, they're not going to realize that she's already. That they don't realize this lumdus that Zika or even Zika and Mama is Knusa. They don't see her as being the wife of Shimon. They think that she's the wife of Reuven, and when they're going to see that there were two brothers, Reuven and Shimon, both died. Each one had a wife without children, and Levi is only going to do even with one of them, and the other one's going to go marry out. So people are going to think that that's the halacha, that if there are two brothers, that both of them died without children, it's enough to take one of them, to do yibum to one of them. And that's not true. If there are two brothers that both of them died, each one has to have yibum. This Levi will have to marry both of them. If it would have been mamish, two separate brothers that had two wives that were not connected. The truth is,
there's no things to yibum.
I'm talking about two husbands. They're really two. I think Gemara is saying, but the Raisa, maybe she's considered.
Those two brothers are dead.
If they cross out this mama over here, and cross out anything about Zika, if there would have been, if a man had two brothers and both of them died simultaneously without, and they don't have any children. So this Levi is supposed to do even to both of the brothers' wives. Why not? What you're thinking about is a person has two wives. Two brothers.
Each woman has a different Zika to a different brother.
To a different husband. They have different husbands. They both have a Zika to the same brother. They're only babies around. But both of them had a husband who died. And Reuben didn't have children. Shimon didn't have children. So Levi has to take care of both of them. But people will make a mistake and think that if Levi is only going to take one of them, they're not going to realize the reason why he's taking her is because she was connected to Shimon and she's considered two wives of Shimon. That's why it's enough to take one of them. They're going to think one is the wife of Reuben, one is the wife of Shimon, and it's enough to do even to one of them, but that's not true. That's what the Gemara suggests. Maybe that's Pshat of Shimon. With the Raisa, maybe it's enough to do even to one of them. And the other one can go free because Zika Knusa. But Rabbanan, who is only Asa, Rabbanan, Gzeira, a decree, maybe what people will think, if you have two women, two sisters-in-law that are coming from two different brothers, it's enough to do even to one of them, the other one can go free, and that's not true, because there is a chiv yibum to each brother. So maybe that'll answer the kasha. The really Reb Shimon does hold Zika Kiknusa. But the Gemara does not help because it says Beferish in the Brisa, that's not Pshat Reb Shimon. But the time of Reb Shimon, the reason of Reb Shimon is because it's suffix if the mama is considered a marriage or not. The time the Amulam Reb Shimon Lachachamim, Imam Morish Al Sheni Mama, Eshisheni Uboel. Imam Morish Al Sheni Eno Mama, Eshish Rishon Uboel. When Reb Shimon explained himself in the Mishnah, Reb Shimon doesn't explain himself so much. He just says what he holds, the din, that miyabim one of them and do chalitza to the other one. But in the Brisa he explained himself because he says that there's no reason to say that he can't do mama to this woman, to the wife, the widow of Reuben, because if the mama is something, so then she's married to Shimon, so he could marry her. And if the mama is nothing, so then she's the wife of Reuben, and also he could do yibum. That's how Shimon explains himself. But according, and that doesn't say what the Gemara is trying to say, that the Zika is surely kiknusa and she's married to Shimon, and it's only going to be Rabban that he cannot marry both of them. So he cannot marry any one of them. Again, Reb Shimon, I'm sorry, that the Gemara says that maybe according to Reb Shimon, Mederaisa, he could just do even to one of them because they're both married to Shimon, because Zika kiknusa plus especially the mama. But the reason why we say don't marry both of them, because people will think, well, the reason why we say don't marry only one of them, because people will think that it's enough to marry one of two brothers' wives that both their brothers died, and that's not true. But the Brisa doesn't say this. But Brisa says openly that Shimon holds that I'm not sure if the mama connects her to Shimon or not. So you see that it's possible she's not connected to Shimon; she's only connected to Reuben, and Shimon is not sure that Zika is kiknusa. So the kasha now is a good kasha. The Gemara finished asking the kasha. There's a parentheses we had to go through in order to come back to the same kasha as we were. That you see that Zika is not kiknusa, or at least it's a suffix. So that's the question back. That was a verse of kasha on Abu Shaya. How could you say in the case of Eish Zach Shalai Balomo that even though when Levi was born, Shimon did not get married, Reuven's wife, how could you say for sure that Levi could marry because she's already considered Knusa to Shimon? It's not true. That was a Yosef's kasha.
Do we, at this point, do we know what Rav Yehuda holds one should do?
There's no Rav Yehuda over here. Who do you mean?
Rabbi Shimon. I'm sorry, Rav Shimon.
In which case?
In this case with Levi and the two wives, Reuven died and then Shimon did Mamar. Do we know? Did we establish? He
says openly. He says marry one of them and do chalitza to the other one.
That's Rav Shimon.
That's Rav Shimon.
And okay, and we're saying that it's possibly because it's a gezerah.
It says, I missed it.
And we're saying that the reason he says this is possibly because of a gezerah, not because of a dirais.
That we tried, but we just knocked it off. He said it can't be because of Shimon the Brisa says openly that he's not sure if she's considered Reuben's wife or she's considered Shimon's wife. That's why. Oh,
because he's not sure. So then,
right?
We can't know for sure that it's a gezerah.
The whole thing in parentheses because the Gemara right away says that it's not true. It was a try, but it didn't work. The Gemara, that's why I said from the Chitema, from the fourth line until the end of the parentheses here, about 10 lines later, this was a try, but it didn't work. The real reason is because he's not sure if it's kiknusa. He's not sure that it's kiknusa. So that's the Rav Yosef has a good kasha now. That it says openly in the Brisa that Rav Shimon is not sure, even if the Mama is going to help. So how could you say Mishnah Bashar saying that a Mishnah Rav Shimon would argue even on the first Mishnah? He'd argue on the first Mishnah of our parak because even if there was no Yibum, the Zika Kiknusa is not true. Rav Shimon is not sure that Zika Kiknusa even with a Mama or not. So the kasha now, we just finished the kasha now of Rav Yosef. So just to the chart again, if that helps. This case, Rabbi says that's not a kasha. Over here, what do the Gemara want? When Reuven dies and she's zekuka to Shimon, that should be considered that's Shimon's wife. When Reuven dies, there are two brothers over here. In this case, nobody was born later. This case is a regular case, three brothers, they all had wives, and Reuven died. When Reuven dies, she's not only zekuka to Shimon, she's zekuka to Levi also. So there's no reason to consider her the wife of Shimon, that when Shimon dies, now she's going to be Shimon's wife. Why should she be Shimon's wife any more than she was zekuka to Levi? In the case that we were talking here, the Gemara is saying that the case that we're discussing in this case was that there only was one brother. Here was the case. There were two brothers, and one of them died. At that time, at that point, exactly at that time, she's kuka, there's only one brother. So yeah, it's possible to say Zikuka, Zika, and she's considered married to Shimon. And now when Levi is born, he comes into the world. It's true, he didn't marry her yet, but she's a kuka to him because that's what happened. There only was one brother, and he's even nothing happens when he gets born. There's a Zika to only one brother. So there is it possible to say Zika Kiknusa. But if, for instance, there would have been two brothers, let's say there were three brothers and one of them died, then he's not going to say Zika Kiknusa. That's a chiddush. He's saying that the case of the Mishnah is only talking about when there's two brothers originally. And then the third brother is born. But if there would have been more than one brother surviving in this case, so then she wouldn't be Zika Kiknusa. That's what Abaya is suggesting. Amalei Abaya, well, is there no difference to you between the Zika to one Yavam or Zika to two Yavam? Maybe Ab Shimon, I say Zika Kiknusa is only when there's one Yavam. Then it's only to him, it's only a possible choice. But if there are two Yavam, and maybe Ab Shimon is masking, they don't say Zika Kiknusa. And that's the reason in the case about Shalah Zika Shnei Yavam, over there's no Zika Kiknusa because there are two available brothers. So we asked the Kasha, Abaya answered it. Now the Gemara is going to be attacking Rabbi Shaya. It makes it sound like he's attacking Abaya, really he's attacking Shaya, and he just Abaya's terrorist is not going to help. There was now going to ask the Kasha. Rabbi Shaya said that if Shimon, even when Reuven was born, she did marry, did not do Yibum to the wife of Reuven, and still Levi would be allowed to marry her when Shimon dies. Is that true? But Tanya, Klalam Reb Shimon, Kol Shalei the Kodamis Lanesu, and Lochal Letzes Lomas Yebenes. Reb Shimon says openly, Lachor Mamash is talking about that if Levi was born before Shimon married, there's no Chalitza, no Yibum because Mamash never. There's Eshach Shaloi means he first Mishnah. He agrees to the Mishnah that if Levi was born, he found her not yet being married. You don't say Zikir Kiknusa. So Reb Shimon is talking here. Klalam Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon said this klal that if the birth of Levi was before the marriage, Shimon married Reuven's wife. So then it's Eish Zachav Shloi Ba'alomo. Only in this case does he argue the soon called Milaleda. If the marriage of Shimon was before Levi was born, so when Levi was born, he found her as being the wife of Shimon. Then Rabbi Shimon says that he's allowed to do Chalitza or Yibum because we erased the history that once upon a time she was the widow of Reuven. So he says openly that's only if Shimon married her first and then Levi was born. But if Levi was born before Shimon married her, so you don't say this Zika Knusa, she's considered Eish Zachar Shloi Ba'alomo. And Don Abaya, that the more now wants to deflect Abaya. Abaya shouldn't come in and say it's talking about there are two brothers over here. Only one brother. I'm sorry. Again, Zika, the one wants to prove that here you see. Yes, here you see you don't say Zika Kiknusa. You see that if he came to the world later, it's considered Eish Zachav Shloi Ba'alomo. Is it not even talking about there's only one brother? My love Yavam Echad, Abaya. Are you going to say yes, talking about two brothers? It's Lachora talking about even if there's one brother, and also it's considered not married. But the Gemara says no. Abaya said what's the problem? I just didn't finish talking. That there's a difference between one and two. I'll say the case here is talking about that there are two brothers. That's why you don't say that it's considered married to Shimon. No, I'll say that it's only talking about if there are two available brothers, and that's why when Reuven dies, there's Shimon, Levi, whatever, and then Yehuda is born. That's when it's going to be the din that he cannot. It's not considered married because there's not only Shimon, there's Shimon and Levi. Yehuda came onto the picture later on, but the Gemara doesn't like this. But you're going to say that even if Shimon would agree that if there's only one Yavam, then it is Zika Kiknus, and she could be married to the new brother that was born. Yachi, why doesn't it say so? If the Brisa wants to tell, really holds like Abaye, then it should have said so. It shouldn't have said the klal is that if the birth was first, there's no Yibum. If the marriage was first, then there could be Yibum. It should have said that sometimes even if it should have said it should have said even about the same case that the birth was first. It also could be a possible case where it'll be Yibum. It should have said this difference between one brother and two brothers. How many brothers are available? If you're right that by one Yavam is going to be considered he's married to her, even if he didn't do Yibum yet, it's considered a Zika Kiknusa. The one still tries to get out of it. But Kula B'Shnei Yavam we're talking if there was a marriage first or the birth first, but after everything, the Gemara knocks it off. It says it here, klal Rabbi Shimon. It's a klal. And according to you, it's not a klal. The klal is not true. To say that whenever the birth was first, it's going to be lo yibum, lo chalesis, lo misyabemis. It's not true. It depends if there's one brother or two brothers. The fact that it says klal, that is that there's no difference if there's one brother or two brothers. And in any case, it says that she's not considered married to Shimon, and she's considered so the kasha is a good kasha. The Gemara ended off with a kasha on Rav Oshaya. Again, the kasha on Rav Oshaya is going to be that it's not true that Rav Shimon is more than argues even in the ratio. In this case, where he was born before Shimon did Yibum, we don't say Zika Keknusa, Kalam Rabbi Shimon. If the lady was before the Yibum, so then she's considered Eishes Achav Shloi Bolamo. So this was a successful kasha on Rav Oshaya, and Abai couldn't help this one. The Gemara goes on to ask more kashas on Rav Oshaya. So that's why we said before that before it was Rabbi with a Yud, Rabbi Oshaya, because Rabbi Oshaya wouldn't be asking kasha on Rabbi Oshaya. He can ask kasha on himself. Or would have said he asked kasha on himself. If it says Rabbi Oshaya asked the kasha on Rabbi Oshaya, it means that there's Rabbi Oshaya and Rabbi Oshaya. Places points this out that there's a Rabbi Oshaya before it was Rabbi Oshaya. So here's this kasha. Another proof to show that Rav Shimon does not hold Zika Kiknusa. That's that's the whole subject of today. He holds Zika Kiknusa. It says Mishnah, Gimel Achin, Shnayim Yem Nesuin Shtei Achayos, O Isha Obita, O Isha Obas Bita, O Isha Obas Bina. We'll take a regular case, which we called many times already, Achos Kukasa. Here's the case on the chart. Here's the case, where are we? Achos, we did that already. Achos Kukasa. Achos Kukasa means three brothers, two of them married sisters, and they both died. So we would say that two brothers died, so both of them have to have Yibum. Both of them have to have Yibum to the remaining brother. But the problem is that they're related to each other, and in a way that he cannot marry both of them. So he can't even marry even one of them, because each one is called the Achos Kukasa. So just like a she's an average. Just like Achos Ishto is Aser, so Achos Kukasa is also Aser. So then he can't marry one because she's the sister of someone who's Kukatim. She's Kukatim. He also can't marry her because she's Achos Kukasa. Because the other one, both of them are Kukatim, because both of them came from brothers that died, and the sister, the one who's Kukatim is Aser. Just like Achos Ishto is Aser, Achos Kukasa is Aser. So that's the thing they can't marry. Here it seems to say in many cases either if the sisters or one is the mother of the other one is the mother, one is the daughter, and etc. It says four cases over here. The cases are two sisters, or a mother and a daughter, or Isha Ubas, a mother and a granddaughter, or a daughter's daughter, or a mother and a son's daughter, but they're related. They can't take both of them, and therefore either that both of them is considered erva of Skukaso, and therefore he's not allowed to marry any one of them.
Just a question: Can two brothers marry a mother and a daughter?
Why not?
I don't know.
Yes, why not? They can marry two different sisters also. All these things, that's no problem. That's all these cases. This was the first mission that his brother was married, and it was so far we don't have anything. We knew this already before. We knew that he can't do chalitza. That even he does chalitza to both of them. But now Rav Shimon talks.
Yes, because the mother and the daughter are going to be sisters. That's what the problem is.
So what's the problem?
It just doesn't sound good.
Okay, Rav Shimon Poter. That's what we're looking for. Rav Shimon Poter. Rav Shimon we're gonna see later on. Rav Shimon Poter. This is going to be a pasuk. He says if that not only don't you do evil, you don't do chalida. There's no mitzvah yibum in this case where they're falling both to yibum and he can't do yibum to both of them. If he can't do yibum to both of them, he doesn't do yibum to either one of them. Okay, that's what Rav Shimon says. But the Gemara is going to ask, with us to show on the chart what the Gemara wants. The Gemara is assuming that they didn't die simultaneously.
Poter means not to do either. Poter means not to do either, right? Isn't that what it means?
Nothing. They all go. Both of them go home. Go free. They go.
So
they
that's
go
what
marry young.
That's what it just said, right? So it's just explaining that that's what it just said. Lo yavam, lo lechitza. Isn't that what?
Sorry, Rav Shimon Poter. All it says is Rav Shimon Poter. I'm not sure.
The words right before that. What were the words right before?
No, before that it said cholzos. Both of them need chalitza. Rav Shimon saying they don't need chalitza either.
Okay.
Is true or not true?
I don't know. I thought it said, don't do this, don't do that. Rav Shimon Poter.
It doesn't say that. Where are you reading? Where are you
Okay,
reading?
I don't have a book in front of me. Okay, thank you.
So let me put the Gemara on. Here it says, Hare Elu, Cholzos, Velomis Yamos. Chalitza, no Yibum. It doesn't say low Cholzos, it says Hare Elu.
Thank you. Yeah, I see. Holtzot's below.
And Rav Shimon says
With
nothing.
Yavim.
There's no mitzvah of Yibum at all. Because both of them are falling to him and he came to marry to both of them, we'll see soon. So he doesn't marry any one of them. The Gemara is going to ask, why doesn't the first one? The Gemara is assuming that for sure these two men didn't die simultaneously. One of them died first. If one of them died first, so whoever dies first, she's the one who's considered a kanusa, a zakuka, and a kanusa. So it's as if Levi married that one. And therefore, when the other sister comes onto the scene because her husband also died, that's already not going to interfere with the first one. She's not only is it, if you hold Zika, yes, Zika, but Zika Keknusa, when this one dies, before this one died. I didn't do a diagram for this one, but since they died not at the same time, so whoever died first, his wife should be considered the Zkuka to the third brother, and also Zika Keknusa. And therefore, when the second brother dies, it should not interfere. She's already considered married. So for whatever reason, Hashem is going to say that
Remember, she's already the cooker to the middle brother before he died. They didn't die at the same time. So the second brother who's about to die, he's already chayiv. She's already zakuk to him as a wife.
Well, they have a joint zakuka. It's not necessarily only Shimon, but Shimon and Levi together.
So she is the cook to the husband is going to die. The brother is going to die. The second brother.
no, when the first brother dies, she's not Zakuka to him because it's a wife's sister. There's no
Okay, so it's
Zika.
erva,
So there's no Zika. So she's Zakuka to this one.
Yeah, I get it.
His wife, the widow, is Levi.
Okay, good. Okay.
So now, even if Shimon dies, the second sister should not interfere, should not bother her from doing Yibum because she's already Zika Keknusa.
Yes, but she's also the second wife.
No, the second wife is already after she's married already. It's as if she's already married. If she would have been married, then you ask him that the second wife is not going to bother because she's already married. So that's it. He's married to her. If he would have done Yibum, there's no question that the other sister would not be in the picture anymore.
Oh.
But if you hold Zika Keknusa, even if he did not marry her, she's already considered as a kuka, and the second sister should not interfere, even now that she's also became a widow.
But the moment the second brother dies, the way the arrow is now is she's a cooker to him as well.
No, because it's a wife's sister. He's already married to her as if he's married to her. So then it's a wife's sister, and she goes free. She's an erva. He doesn't have to marry her. He can't marry her. But it doesn't stop him from marrying the first one. Since she's already knusa, he should not have been married here also now. That's the Gemara's kasha. The Gemara is comparing all these cases. If you hold Zika Keknusa, it should have all these ramifications. Let him marry the first one, then the other one goes free. Not the both of them are poter. The first one should be chayven yibum. That's what the words mean. He wants to be matchik. He says Rav Shimon poter. But he's saying Rav Shimon means, what does Rav Shimon poter mean? Not both of them. The first one does do yibum, but the second one is poter. But the one doesn't like that. Rav Shimon poter b'shtein. It says not only poter. There's not a brisa that says a bit more explicit that says Rav Shimon poter b'shtein. That means both of them. Both of them don't do a yibum. Why not? The first one should do yibum. So he says a teretz, which the Gemara is going to explain is a mistake. Katoy Rava ba'arba zugi chada the o katani v'od Rav Shimon poter rabatan miboyle. Let's see the chart a second. Rav has a teretz, but it's not going to work because it's not the right shot in the brisa. Just to show the chart over here. Again, the kasha was that according to Rav Shimon, the first one should do yibum, and the Gemara tries to say it does, even though it says poter. Poter means poter, only the second one, poter b'shnia. The kasha is no, it says poter b'shtein. That's the kasha. So Rabbi says, poter b'shtein. This is Rabbi's mistake. Rabbi thinks here's Rabbi's mistake. This is teuso shel Rabbi. The Brisa said 3 brothers that were married 2 sisters, or isho 2 sisters, or isho bita, or isho bas bita, or isho bas bana. It said 4 examples. Rabbi thought that it doesn't mean 4 examples. Rabbi thought that all 4 happened. The 2 brothers, each one had 4 wives, and each couple, each wife was a relative to the other one. So Reuven and Shimon. Reuven married somebody, and she had a sister that Shimon married. Reuven married another woman, and also Shimon married her daughter. Reuven married somebody, and Shimon married her granddaughter. Reuven married somebody, so he had 4 wives. Each one had 4 wives. And when it says Pater B'Shtei, and then both Reuven and Shimon died. And even though Reuven died first, then Shimon died. So all the wife, one wife, of course, you don't have to do, you can't do it to all the wives, but to one of the wives of Reuven. They're saying, according to Shimon, Zika Keknusa, so even though Shimon eventually died, but she's already considered Knusa. So one of them, at least one of the wives, is going to be considered married to Levi, and therefore all these wives don't do Yibum Machlitza Poter. And the reason why he says B'Shteyen, it means 2 of them, or as the Gemara is going to explain, maybe all the second ones, all the second ones of the set, all the second of the sets. But the Rav is still trying to explain that the first one's wife does do Yibum. He's trying to hold up the pshat that we said, that Zika Keknusa, and Levi does marry one of them with the wife, or at least one wife of Reuven. And even though it says Pater B'Shteihen, it doesn't mean this and this. It means this and this. It means the wives of Shimon are all Pater. And happens to be there are more than 2 wives, there are 4 wives. The Gemara says Rava made a mistake. This pshat is wrong. The Brisa doesn't mean such a case. It doesn't mean that each one married 4 wives. It means, it says that 3 brothers, and 2 of them married either 2 sisters, or a woman and her daughter, or a woman and her granddaughters. Doesn't mean that he married all these cases happening.
That they were different examples of
but each one only married 1 wife,
right.
And therefore Rabbi's pshat is not good. The Gemara is going to have some more cautious that besides saying it should have said not only Shtein, it should have said Arbatan, it should have said all 4. So that's why the Gemara is going to knock down Rabbi. We'll see the Gemara inside.
Rabbi doesn't make mistakes, Rabbi.
The Gemara says, Tell you Rava about Zugi. Rava made the mistake that he thought that there are 4 couples over here, 4 pairs. And the Gemara says why it's wrong. Why is it a mistake? It says the whole time like it says in the yellow highlighted. It said Shtei Achayos Isho Bita It doesn't say U. It doesn't say Shtei Achayos Isho Bita. It says So Katani means that all 4 cases, not that it's one case that has 4 wives. And second of all, it shouldn't have said Shteihen. It said Potter B'Shtein. It should have said Potter B'Batan if he's talking about all the second wives.
Why didn't Rabbi just choose two cases of evidence? Why did he choose 4?
There's a brisa. The more trying to explain the brisa. The old Tanya of Shimon Potter B'Shtein Menachlisu Menayibum Shenema Visha Lachos Lozikach Litzror B'Shar Shenasu Tzar Zul Zul Yelach Likuchan Afilu Bachsman. That the brisa says Beferish why Shimon holds that as Potter. It doesn't mean that only the second set is Potter, the second wives are Potter. It says even the first ones, because he says the reason why Shimon Potter is because it says a drasha that a man shouldn't marry when the yibum is going to cause that they become co-wives to each other. It means that these a woman and her sister falling together as yibum, he doesn't even take any one of them. So there's a drush that says Beferish. Shimon's pshat is not that he says the first one does Yibum, the second one doesn't. And that's the Gemara's kasha. If you hold Zika Keknusa, Rabbi Shimon should say that the first one should do Yibum. So the Gemara seemed to knock off Rabbi Shaya, but Rav Ashi comes to the rescue. Elam Rav Ashi, the nafal b'zachas de'achinami. Acham ma'yiskina, the nafal b'basachas. Rabbi Shimon savalak kaviyos eklili, the amar efshel something. When I started saying the kasha, I said that the Gemara assumes that without question, that the case is that they didn't die at the same time. One of them died first, and then the second one died. And the Gemara's kasha was the one that died first should be Zika Keknusa, and she should be able to continue marry the remaining brother, Levi. The Gemara answers, the case that you're right, the good kasha, and if Shimon Taka holds Zika Keknusa, that he could continue marrying the first one, the other one is going to go free, but both of them died simultaneously. There was a bomb, a car accident, both of them died simultaneously, and that's the only case that Shimon is going to say that both of them are putter, but if they died one and then the other one died, Levi will marry the one who was died first, whichever one it is, because Zika Keknusa, and the second one is not going to interfere. So the Gemara did save Rabbi Shai's pshat, at least from this kasha. We said there was a kasha before that the Gemara didn't have an answer for. That was over here, Elamai Klala. There was a kasha from a brisa that's pretty clear, Klala Rab Shimon. The Gemara went on with that kasha anyway. The second kasha, the Gemara does have an answer for, which is Nafal Basachas. But after all that, just 2 more lines. After all that, that Rav Shaya was saying of Pshat in the Mishnah that Rav Shimon argues even the first case that when Levi was born, Shimon had not yet married the Alman of Reuven. And Rabbi Shai said that he holds in that case also. And when Shimon dies, Levi will be able to marry her. But Rav Papa argues, and he goes back to the Pashut that we learned all the time, and the Gemara is going to prove that he's right. Rav Papa Amar b'yibim b'achach nolad palig Rab Shimon, but b'nolad b'achach yibim lo palig. Back to the chart, just back to the original chart. That we had a ratio and a sefer, and I was saying that Rab Shimon agrees to the ratio. The first case where it said nolad v'achach yibim, in this case, Rab Shimon also agrees that it's Asher because when he came into the world, she was not married to Shimon. She was just one of Reuben. So he recognizes her as being Eshes Achav Shloim Balamo. And even if eventually Shimon married her, it doesn't make a difference. And when Shimon dies, he's not going to be able to marry her. And the kasha was, why does it say the Reisha B'chlal? There are Banan that say that it's Asher. They say more extreme, that it's even Asher in the second case when Levi was born, he found her already married to Shimon. So that's the Chiddush. So
Shimon says yes. Yeah, that he can.
Now the Gemara is saying that in this case, Rab Shimon holds that it's mutter because he found her as being married woman to Shimon. In this case, but the question was, why did he need the first case for? The first case is not a chiddush according to Rabbanan. Rab Shimon says it's only mutter in the second case. So let's talk about the second case. The first case is no machlokes. Why does the Gemara have to mention? Why does the Mishnah mention this case? The Rabbanan surely hold that even in the second case, it's surely the first. The Gemara answers it was lozu avzu. The Rabbanan they say not only this case is Asher. When he was born, he found his sister-in-law as being the widow of Reuven. Is it Asher for her ever to marry her? Even if when he came into the world, she was already married to Shimon. Also, it's Asher. He not only know that v'achach even v'achach know that. That's how the Gemara ends off.
And does that mean that we're ending the Zekika Shalo Ketnusa?
I didn't hear. There's not a good connection. But
are we ending then by Are we ending by saying Zika lo kikanusa?
Right. The Gemara is saying even according to Rabbi Shimon, you don't say Zika kiknusa. Till now, Rabbi Shai was saying that according to Rabbi Shimon, at least according to Rabbi Shimon, Zika kiknusa, not to Rabbana, but or they don't hold that. That all doesn't make a difference as far as this case. But even Rabbi Shimon does not hold Zika kiknusa. That's what Papa is saying, and therefore by Nola he agrees that there's going to be a Zachav Shloim B'Olamo. And the Mishnah has two Mishnahs, so Tavai or Banalisrach. The Mishnah is talking, the first Mishnah is not to tell you that Rav Shimon holds over there that it's mutter, but it's going to Rabbanan that it's Asher. The Lozu Avzu Katani. It's just the lead up. Not only the first Mishnah, even the second Mishnah is Asher. But according to Rav Shimon, he also agrees that the first Mishnah is Asher, only the second Mishnah is mutter. We're middle still, Tanya Kavase, but that's as far as I got. That's also 12:04 already. So we'll stop here. And this goes back to the way we learned in the beginning of the Mishnah. And just to point out that the Gemara says, also on the Testament base, where it brings down this whole subject, over there it says he toasted Rabbi Shaya was disproven, which is going to be tomorrow, Tanya Kavasa de Papa, with Trufta de Rabbi Shaya. That's going to come up tomorrow. Probably tomorrow I'm not going to be able to say the shir, so Machabus is going to be saying it tomorrow. So the clarity will come tomorrow with his shir, B'ezras Hashem. Hope everybody enjoyed so far. Yashikah.
Okay, it looks like Jacques had a question. I'm not sure if that's
Shalom,
true.
shalom.
Oh, it's about Shalom. How are you?
Shalom, good to see you back.
I tuned into you a few months ago, and unfortunately, I think I must have given you the wrong. I've got two, what do you call it, Hotmail addresses, and somehow or other they've got my new one, which I don't use that often. I like to use the old one. I need really to go at a slower pace. It's nothing to do with you. You speak as fast as your normal speed. Don't worry about me. Do you have a device on your very good website where I can go actually slower?
I think there is. I'd have to ask our.
Actually, you could put this.
Where do we find the recordings, by the way? I don't know where to find the recordings.
Yes, there are recordings, but I pressed it and it said ask for permission. So I'm
gonna ask our cameraman and see. I'll get back to you. If you'll hold on a minute, I'll ask him if he's here. 1 second.
Right.
Please.
It's getting used to the terminologies. I can tell you, I'm embarrassed to tell you that I'm a new beginner. Actually, yes, new beginner. Beginner.
Very hard Gemara's.
No, you're not. You're very good standard. It's obvious. It's the terminologies I'm not used to, and the pictures are doing fine. It makes it a lot easier. And it's obviously a difficult subject. I understand that. It's not your fault. It's my fault. So that's the only thing I have to contend with, really. Speed and getting used to the terminologies. And are you there?
I was just told that if it goes through YouTube, so then it should be able to adjust.
Oh, we do it on
the-
YouTube. Right.
on YouTube. It should be possible, but I have to stop now, and we'll be continuing with Hilchos Pesach in a few minutes, about 2 more minutes.
Yes, I've got to get off. So how do so just do on YouTube?
Yeah, correct.
Right. Oh, it's the same. Right. Okay. Thanks very much.
Hey, thank you so much.
Bye dear.
Shalom, welcome back, and continuing Hilchos Pesach. Thank you. So we're in B'dikas Chametz, and yesterday the last thing we spoke about that of Shlomo Zalman, anybody that I guess everybody's no newcomers, we're doing Rav Nevitzal's book. On 11. So he says places that clean before. So Shlomo Zalman said that it's considered a place that you don't bring chametz into, and therefore doesn't have to have B'dikas Chametz. Also, he says that if you don't know if it was checked, so you can go around asking whoever was responsible was it checked, and women could also be relied upon, even the minors also. But he says that it's better to 1 second. What did I miss? Yeah. But he says that is to leave a place that was not clean in order that it shouldn't be a bracha l'batala. If everything was clean, then there's no place where there's a chash chametz. So then it might be a bracha l'batala. If he says I'll be your chametz and he knows there's nothing there. So it's better to leave a place that he did not check, that he did not clean. And also he says that if he leaves 10 pieces, the way the custom is, and I would add on, he doesn't know where it is. So then it shows not a bracha l'batala for those 10 pieces. The places that he knows are going to be sold.
Rob, can you repeat the last thing? You broke up a little bit.
That the places, the whole sentence, what the whole paragraph was, that the places that were clean before, and he knows there's no chametz, is not necessary to do bedika, but that causes it maybe a bracha l'batala. If he knows the whole house is clean and there's definitely no chametz, so there's no reason to do bedika, and if he says a bracha, it might be a bracha in vain. So he says 2 suggestions. One would be to leave a place which was not cleaned, a small area, whatever, something that was not cleaned and checked, and then the bracha at least goes on that. Or if he does the custom of leaving pieces around, so that also he'll be doing a search for that. That's chametz, and I would suggest also that he should not know where it is, because if he knows where it is, it's also just a game. It's not called searching for, just that he has chametz to destroy, and now chametz is going to be the bracha for tomorrow. But there's to be a big hefsek then if he just say bracha now and he's not searching. So I would suggest if someone either, if Navasal says either to leave a place which was not clean, a small area that was not clean, the wife shouldn't be nervous. It's a small area, whatever, 2 meters by 2 meters, whatever it is, that he should be able to clean himself. And the other eitzah was to leave 10 pieces in a place that someone else is going to hide 10 pieces, so therefore he'll make a bracha because he's searching for it. Maybe that's good enough.
For our kids,
But make sure.
till
Yeah.
this day, they still, if they're around.
Okay. The next point, the place where you are going to sell to a goy. So the Nevi'sal says it doesn't make any sense to check for it because you're going to check. You're going to leave it anyway because you're selling it. So therefore, there's no reason to check those places. We said that in the contract, people don't want to do Badika. So then the sale will take place on the 13th. That even though it's going to be sold tomorrow, maybe right now it was not sold yet. Maybe even that is also, you could assume that he doesn't have to do Badika because even if he's going to find it, he's going to leave it anyway. So there's no reason to do Badika over. Rav Nevin talks about the matzah box itself. Maybe you have to do b'tikas chametz, which is a big chiddush. Of course, there's no chametz in the matzah box, but he says that maybe there's going to be some matzahs that are doubled over, things like that, and then the fuchos and kfulos, that the matzah that gets blown up. But there's really, I think that nowadays we don't have such a thing because even the whole chumrah of kfulos and the fuchos is the old time matzah when they might have been thick, but now matzahs, even though we're doubled over, sometimes in the bin it got doubled up and it got doubled over, and then there's a chumrah not eat that part. But
I can understand that he maybe wants to just do obviously hand matzahs and not machine matzahs, I would think.
The machine matzah, okay, he himself says he doesn't really mean to say that as chametz, but he means to say that a person should check the matzahs. He's saying even if it's not a chametz, but before you're eating it, so make sure that it shouldn't be doubled over or blown up. The blown up is like you see by the pizza when you have a whole big bubble by pizza. There's a chash that inside, if there's a matzah that will be blown up, or if the matzah itself